So, you know how we were talking at the beginning of this unit that solving linear system, we started with solving linear system by graphing and then finding the point of intersection. Now we're going to solve for the linear system, but we're going to solve by substitution. Remember, I told you at the beginning there was 3 different ways that we can solve for a linear system. Graphing, substitution, elimination. Done graphing, we're moving into substitution. Okay? So in this case, we don't have to graph. We're just going to have to use the equations to solve for our point of intersection. So there's many steps that is required to get to that step. It's not hard. It's more following the rules. Okay? So let's start with the first example. First example is telling you to isolate for a positive variable from either of the equation. And I give you a tip to label your equations. Okay? So I have the 2 equations here. Right? The first one is 3x plus 2y equals 12. The second one is 4x minus y equals 5. So the first thing you probably want to do is label your equation as equation 1 and equation 2. Okay. Then we have to isolate a positive variable. And so if you're looking at these 2 equations, which one do you think is easier to isolate for? Second equation, what letter do you want to isolate for? 1. Okay? We usually pick the easier one. Okay? If I isolate for this, then I have to divide by 2, or if I isolate for this, I have to divide by 3. If I isolate for this, I have to divide by 4. So you want to try to pick the one that doesn't have a coefficient. Okay? So I have to isolate, so rearrange 2. So I'm going to rearrange 2. And I want to isolate for 1. So if I do negative y equals, bring the 4x over, it becomes negative 4x plus 5. Are we all okay with this?
I thought it changed to positive was negative.
What's the sign for 4x? What's before 4x? Positive or negative? Positive. So I move it over and it becomes a negative. Remember, the sign is before the term, not after the term. So now it's not positive yet, right? This is not positive. If I want to make the y positive, what do? Divide by negative 1. Divide everything by negative 1, right? So that becomes y. What does this become if I divide it by negative 1? 4x. And then? Negative 5. Right? So because I'm changing the sign of everything. Now do you see that I have y by itself, positive y equals to something? Are we okay with that so far? Okay, I'm going to name this equation number 3. Okay? Now, since I worked with the second one, now I have to work with the first one. So what I will do, I have to substitute the newly arranged equation into the other equation. Okay? So I have to substitute this into my first equation. Now, let's look at that. First thing we're going to write this. So, sub 3 into 1. Make sense? So I'm subbing equation 3 into equation 1. Are you guys okay with that? So I'm going to replace y. I'm going to replace this y with its value, which is 4x minus 5. Look at this. So 3x plus 2. Instead of y, I'm going to replace it with 4x minus 5. Do you guys see that? You see what happened? So, the value of y, right? Yes? Y is 4x minus 5. So what I did is, you see that y right here? I replaced that y with its value. Are we okay with that? So now instead of having 2y, I have 2 times 4x minus 5. Now all that I have to do is I have to solve for the variable. How many variables do you see in this equation? How many letters do you see? How many different letters do you see? One letter, which is x, right? So I can expand and collect like term and solve. Okay? So let's see how that goes. So I have 3x plus 2. I'm just rewriting the same thing. In order to simplify this, what's the first thing I have to do? Distribute 2 with. So that's going to be 3x plus 8x minus 10 equals 12. What else can I do? Add 3x and 8x because they're like terms. What can I do with the 10? What can I do with this 10? Move it over, right? Becomes a plus 10. So 11x equals to 22. Now what do I have to do? Divide by 11, right? Because I want to get rid of that. Are you okay with that so far? So I found the value of x. Now, to find a point of intersection have x and y, right? A point of intersection is x, y, right? So I found the x, now I need to find the y. To find the y, I need to substitute the value for the variable back either in this equation or in the original equation. Okay? So, choose the simpler one. Okay? So if you see here, if I plug in x in this one, right? If I plug in x in this one, then 4 times x minus 5, that would give me the answer right away. Yeah. So if I plug in, in number 3, I plug in x, it was minus 5, right? Then 4 times 2 is 8, minus 5, so y equals 3. Okay, so I plugged in the value of x back in 3 to solve for y. I found my point. It's done. All you have to do right now, you have to state your statement. But before you state your statement, you have to check your work. Okay? Checking is to see that you have done the right thing. Okay? So remember that my POI is 2, 3. This is what I solved. So it's 2, 3. Right? So I'm going to go back to my original equations, and I'm going to plug 2 and 3 for x and y, and I'm going to prove that the left side is equal to the right side. So my original equation is 3x plus 2y equals 12. I'm going to replace x with what? And I'm going to replace y with
3.
3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. So that means left side equals right. Okay? So this right here, the 3x plus 2y equals to 12, is equation number 1. Now I have to use equation number 2 to prove. Equation number is 4x minus y equals 5. Plug in 2 for x, 3 for y. Four times 2 is 8. 8 take away 3 is 5. Left side equals right. So since both of these work nicely, that means my solution is correct, right? That means my point is a point of intersection. All what I have to do right now is I have to state my therefore statement and say therefore the solution is 2 and 3. Yep.
For the first part, it doesn't matter which one you use, just try to use the easier one.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay? I'm going to give you another example that I would like you to try to work on, and then we're going to take it up after that.